I would respectfully like to ask the House, can we just give another 5 minutes for the people coming in? Is that okay? Yeah. But once I start, I'm not going to stop until we go to Q&A. I'm a student, I know where I'm not good. With the 12:30. Lawrence, should we start? Or another 5 minutes, or should we start? Huh? Yeah, we start.
Good afternoon, colleagues. Good afternoon to all the participants that took their time to join us for today's seminar. This is the research capacity development unit seminar on decolonizing the curriculum towards an inclusive and transformative education. I was just thinking, when we gave this title, and we approached Dr. Malus to be the one facilitating this seminar for us. I think on our first meeting, when we were trying to brainstorm what kind of a trajectory or orientation we should be taking in terms of the facilitation or the presentation that will emerge in this seminar. It really came to light that this is sort of an issue that is controversial. So, myself being from the university side and also being part of the research capacity development unit staff, was, questioning Dr. Malus that, now this seems to be more, sort of controversial. And he said to me that, academics is always, we cannot divorce controversy from academics. So at the end, we just said, let's do it. Right, so we are happy to have you here today. As participants in this seminar. I'd like our online audience just for you to indicate by show of virtual thumb that you can hear me, and you can also see these slides that I've shared with you. Just waiting maybe for an indication from the online audience, just one or two thumbs to show that you can hear me well, and you can also see this slide that I've shared with you.
Yes, please do indicate the thumbs up if you can hear
okay,
Dr. Deborah.
I don't know. Okay, let me just load it. Okay, thank you. I think those who are online are indicating that we are indeed together. Okay, so why is it really of significance that we must be looking at a topic like this? Given that this is a seminar that we are doing in recognition of the youth month, right? So we just thought that there's a lot to curriculum than what we think. We just think that curriculum is about the sort of design and of the content that we learn in class, but it goes well beyond that. And I don't want to go into now talking about what possibly Dr. Malus will be talking about, but I just noted some points that maybe we can reflect on as we progress with this seminar. So I mentioned historical redress, the issue of inclusivity and representation, knowledge diversity, institutional and social transformation, as well as a global relevance. Before we continue, I would like to put a disclaimer. What the facilitator will be saying, those are his views. It's not the views of the research capacity development. Those are not the views and conclusions of the University of Johannesburg and its affiliates. And also, when we do these kind of events, you may also be photographed and video recorded for marketing, social media, and for other purposes, but academic purposes, of course, not personal purposes. And by attending any event, you grant the University of Johannesburg permission to use and publish any recorded material. And I'm thinking that it's only rich that UJ postgraduate students who are here, as well as staff members who are eligible for attending this kind of events. Then, so that is for the other parties, online audience. But I think today we have well more than 10 participants on the online platform. Then let's just go over some housekeeping rules. The university also with respect, diversity, we respect, differing or conflicting views. So our engagement should be of a mutual respect, in an academic discourse. So let's uphold respect for each other. We know our ethical conduct as students within the university and staff within the university. And also, when you have a question, depending on how Dr. Malus wants to progress, you might feel that maybe possibly it must be an engaging, sort of session where whenever you feel like you're bending, you need to ask a question, then you can stop and ask a question, but you will give us the directive as to how does he prefer the questions to be asked. Then also, just a reminder that this session is being recorded, and the recording, as well as any material that you will use for the presenting the session, will upload it on our multiple communities in about 5 to 7 days after we have assessed the suitability of the content for us to share it with our public audience. Then also the feedback survey. I think all of you, when you entered, you were given a feedback survey. We encourage you to fill that. That is also the one that we use to generate a certificate of attendance for you. So the details that you put there, especially your name, surname, student number, it's very important for us so that we can generate a certificate of attendance for you. And for us to also get feedback in terms of our preparations for our future workshops. For some kind words as well to our facilitator for today, Dr. Malus Mwe. Okay, so I'm also would like to remind you that we launched the research capacity development management system. So we are moving from our traditional ways of online meetings where we're using Teams to our own system. So we encourage you to join, to register on the system. You access it through ULink. When you go to ULink, you just go to the services tab. You will see the RCDMS, the icon that is there. If you click there, then it will take you to the registration platform. So for you to be able to access our events and all the support that we give to students, including workshops, research writing consultations, and other forms of the support that we offer, you can only access it through that system, as well as our past workshops and the events. Everything that we do, we record it and we keep it so that you can refer to it whenever you feel like you need to refer to that. Then let me introduce our facilitator for today, Dr. Malus Mwe. Dr. Mwe, I think you can take the podium whilst I read your bio in the hearing of the participants. So Dr. Malus Mwe is a postdoctoral research fellow in the Department of Politics and International Relations at the University of Johannesburg. His research focuses on global political economy, the fourth industrial revolution, decolonized education, artificial intelligence, identity politics, and the intersection of Pan-Africanism with the African Union's Agenda 2063. Before transitioning to academia, Dr. Mwe gained extensive experience in the corporate and development sectors, specializing in finance, investment, banking, and marketing. His professional and academic pursuits have taken him across the globe, enriching his perspectives on international political and economic dynamics. He began his undergraduate studies at the University of Johannesburg in 2015 and completed his honors, master's, and PhD degrees. His doctoral research examined the impact of emerging technologies on African governance and economic development, with a particular focus on the African Union's integration and development agenda. Dr. Mwe is the author of the forthcoming book, Uniting Africa, The Politics of Integration and Development Cooperation, and is currently working on his next book, BRICS and De-Dollarization, The Pivot to a Multipolar World. He is also affiliated with several international organizations, including the Institute for Pan-African Thought and Conversation at the University of Johannesburg. I think this is a very rich biography. Let's just give a round of applause to the community. Before I hand over to him, Dr. Malus, we appreciate your expertise. We also appreciate the honor that you bestowed upon us, accepting our invitation to facilitate the seminar for today. And with that, I hand over to you, Dr. Malus. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody. I'm honored for you to attend. It's very important. But besides for me being honored, we live in very, very, very seismic times, tectonic times, dangerous times, the times we are living. I always like to say life is not a joke because at every minute, every day, terrible things are happening to people globally, and because of digitalization, we are able to see if you want to see. It only shocks you when it happens close to you and when it practically happens to you. Now, there's also
And what is able to see you, we need to change.
sorry about that.
Friends, can you see him? Is he like, it's okay. Yeah.
Sorry about that technicality, but challenges of life, we deal with them as they happen and we deal with them very confidently. The topic of today's very seminar that affects each and everybody, whether you like it or not, whether you know it or not. Decolonizing the curriculum towards inclusive and transformative education. Let me start by reading out exactly what this is all about. The seminar critically examines the enduring legacies of colonialism and the intensifying neo-colonial geopolitical tensions that continue to shape educational, legal, economic, and epistemological systems globally, particularly in the global south. It's happening right now. It also seeks to disrupt Eurocentric dominance in curriculum design by centering historically marginalized perspectives and advancing a more inclusive, just, and transformative educational paradigm. That will not happen without your action, and it is messy business. If you're not going to be involved, it will overtake you. The call to decolonize the curriculum is not merely an academic endeavor. It is a political, economic, and epistemological imperative. The imperative arises within a global order still dominated by Western hegemony, maintained through mechanisms such as the United States dollar reserve system, Euro-American legal norms, and exclusionary knowledge regimes. Curriculum, therefore, must be understood. I'll repeat, a curriculum, therefore, must be understood as more than educational content, as it institutionalizes whose histories, sciences, and futures are validated and reproduced. The persistent exclusion of the lived experiences of Black people, indigenous, and formerly colonized peoples, often relegated to the peripheries of formal education, reflects deeper structural asymmetries. These asymmetries are mirrored in international legal frameworks, exemplified by the selective enforcement of nuclear non-proliferation laws and that enable Western powers to retain military nuclear capacities while denying the same to nations like Iran. Likewise, the International Court of Justice has faced mounting criticism for its inconsistent application of justice, frequently aligning with Western geopolitical interests to the detriment of the global South. When we now take them to the International Court of Justice on a strategic level, on a strategic global partnership, to say what you are committing all over the world, in Afghanistan, in DRC, what you are committing in Gaza is genocide. You must also go defend yourself in front of the law. No, they actually arguably say the International Court of Justice was designed by people of color. It was designed for Africans, not for them, the superior race. In this context, the revolutionary stance of leaders like Captain Ibrahim Traore of Burkina Faso and the assertive posture of the BRICS coalition, with its call for a multipolar world and a de-dollarized global financial architecture, signal an urgent demand to decolonize not only curricula, but also the global systems of law, finance, governance, and military sovereignty. And military sovereignty means if South Africa decides to have nuclear weapons like France has, like East England has, and like America has, it means we must exercise our self-determination and sovereignty, but they will tell us we cannot. And those who are following the news, they are telling Iran, you will not have a nuclear weapon. Because with nuclear weapons, you can leverage your culture, you can leverage your economics, you can leverage creating jobs. They limit you because they want to disempower you, because they want to subordinate you. You as students, you are the conscience of your children and your great-grandchildren. This is your responsibility. It is proudly also my responsibility. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. Decolonizing the curriculum then must entail a fundamental reimagining of the stories we tell, the laws we uphold, the knowledge we privilege, and the futures we envision. This seminar invites scholars, practitioners, and activists to collectively forge pathways towards a curriculum that affirms the dignity, sovereignty, intellectual agency of the oppressed, past, present, and future. Because you cannot separate past, present, and future. You cannot. That is a new revolutionary thinking. That cannot be separated. Now, before I go into the content of the paper I'm going to present, because it says decolonization of the curriculum, I want to quote other writers or other authors who've argued what decolonization is, so that we are all at the same page. According to Bambara, a writer, decolonization, he argues, entails not only reforming institutional frameworks, but dismantling the epistemic foundations of domination. Similarly, Motala frames the decolonization of knowledge as a radical disruption of epistemological, economic, and political coloniality that shapes both education and society. So when you're talking about decolonizing the curriculum, you cannot divorce it from society. And you've heard the writers. They say it has to be a radical disruption. This just doesn't happen on its own. It's messy business. It has to be done by you. Our generation, we did our bit. This is your generation's task to carry out. Now, I will define what a curriculum is, because we're talking about decolonizing the curriculum for an inclusive, transformative education curriculum. The curriculum must therefore be interrogated as more than formal syllabi. It is an assemblage of historical narratives, never forget your history, institutional norms, and ideological hierarchies. Brumett in 1981 sees it, he also describes it. She sees it as stories societies tell about themselves. That is what a curriculum is. While Ted Aoki in 1999 distinguishes between the curriculum as planned, like you've come here to UJ, you are ingesting curriculum as planned and curriculum as lived. Your lived life experience interfaces with what you experience here at UJ. That's why we have cycles. Some students can't cope because their lived curriculum, their lived life experiences cannot balance and interface with the culture that is here. Distinguish between the curriculum as planned and the curriculum as lived, recognizing the dissonance between formal educational intent and the lived experiences of students. So you go and get all those books from the library, you need to read them. But at home, you know very well your mother doesn't vote in Eastern Cape, in Mpumalanga, in Soweto, wherever. That is the dissonance we talk about. So how is the oppressed child enabled to be able to focus and concentrate? Just to give you one example. Within this framework, the explicit curriculum, what is taught, what is being taught in all universities, the hidden curriculum, what is implicitly reinforced. Some of it is taught to you implicitly. Sometimes you follow rules that don't sit well with you. And the non-curriculum, what is excluded altogether. Certain things are critically important to form, to be part of our curriculum, but they are not included. But what we have a hegemonic domain of Eurocentric epistemologies that do not speak to the majority of the Black body. It doesn't speak to our history. It doesn't speak to our presence right now. And it doesn't speak to our future. So all this demands scrutiny. South African universities continue to elevate Euro-American canon while relegating African knowledge systems to the margins. So as much as you might be taught about Steve Biko or Chris Hani or Nkosi Hilsa or Nkosi Bambata or Nkosi Ntswane or Nkosi Kupuni, you will be taught about him in a romantic fashion. You will be taught about him in a cosmetic fashion. It is not assembled to overhaul the structure that has been colonized, that has been subordinated. To give you one example, for instance, our education is not state-funded. It's not state-funded, it's state-aided. There's a difference between the two. Aiding of education. Education is supposed to be a right, just like breathing is a right, especially in a post-independent Africa. So I know the struggle for that is still on. Because where there is no funds, where there is no cash flow of funds, where it's not guaranteed, and every year coming in, come out, you see students standing up in arms that their NSFAS money hasn't come yet. Or when it comes late. So there is no equilibrium of mind and concentration in terms of studies. That's how you get destabilized in terms of structure. So we are on the same page. What is decolonization within the context? We are on the same page. What is the curriculum? Then I will dive into the gist, into the body of my paper about decolonizing the curriculum. And before I begin, I want to repeat again, you cannot decolonize the curriculum if you do not understand the political economy of South Africa. You cannot decolonize the curriculum if you do not understand the global political economy. That is underpinned, and I did mention it, by the US reserve currencies. That is underpinned by their nuclear weapons that they don't allow you to have. Because whenever you want to get out of line, they want to get rid of you. That's why up to now, they missed Ibrahim Traore over a twist, and they want to assassinate him. So you can imagine that young person, the type of pressure he has, but he's doing it because he's doing it for the love of his people. And he's doing it, he's sharing with you in real time so that you understand it's a life and death to take back your heritage. It's not just intellectual talking here. It's important to keep on talking because we keep on reinforcing and reminding each other. But Ibrahim Traore and some of our ancestors were born, Thomas Sankara, Chris Hani, and many others have shown that at the end of the day, if you want to reclaim your birthright to control the economy of Africa, you must be prepared to put your life on the line. If you are not, if you are happy to be on the periphery, if your intellect is as sharp as to the periphery, and your intellect doesn't want to go into the cracks of the matter, if you are just happy on the periphery, what one and others are running the fulcrum of the system, and you call yourself educated, I want to argue you are not educated. You are miseducated. Until all of us emulate and become like Ibrahim Traore, until all of us become like Thomas Sankara, become like Chris Hani, become like Samuel Mitchell, then this is real decolonization. The 1994 democratic settlement in South Africa was expected to dismantle apartheid state and transform all racially biased institutions, including the higher education sector. However, the promise of transformation has largely remained unrealized. Instead, what followed was the commodification of education and the entrenchment of neoliberal Eurocentric epistemologies, leaving intact the structural architecture of apartheid. So apartheid is still alive right now. The crux of it and useful because we are educated, we can see it. A new politically connected black elite emerged, functioning as a buffer class with a patronage economy, while the deeper project of epistemic and structural decolonization was systematically deferred. So basically what was built was a black middle class of the very few, the ones you see around all over our leaders and all that, black middle class. And they were created as a buffer. That's why the majority of the people in the rural areas were still in squatter camps. And when you talk of unemployment, talking about 60% of black youth, even when they leave university. So it was never dealt with from 1994. That's an argument. This conceptual article, framed through a decolonial theoretical lens, critically interrogates South Africa's Department of Higher Education and Training, its strategic plan for 2020 to 2025, exposing its alignment with neoliberal policy frameworks such as GEAR and ASVISA that failed to redress racialized economic exclusion. That's why still today, the economy of South Africa is still in the hand of those who architected the apartheid. The whole economy of Africa is not owned by Africans. When you look at the multinational corporations, go and look at company registrations, go and look at the New York Stock Exchange, London Stock Exchange, or Hong Kong Stock Exchange. We are not the majority shareholders. So to say you are a South African, according to me, to say you are an Egyptian, it's a joke. That's why Ibrahim Traore is putting his life in the line to show what it truly means to be an African in your own land. In contrast to transformative leadership seen elsewhere in Africa, most notably under President Ibrahim Traore in Burkina Faso, South Africa's higher education continues to serve as an outpost of imperialism. Global financial actors like BlackRock and Vanguard now reproduce colonial patterns through data colonization and digital extraction, securing intergenerational wealth for global oligarchs. So when you look at our digital infrastructure, the one we are so proud of, I'm also proud of, because I myself will listen up. If you look, but you look at the digital infrastructure and the intellectual property around it. So who are the owners? It's Google, it's Apple, it's Facebook, it's Amazon, it's Microsoft, and we go on. There is no, and these are global. They come from their headquarters in their home country. But we run the whole world. So all the technologies that we have, and the one that I'm using right now, we pay a license fee to it, to Microsoft, to Google, to Apple. In other words, this is what I call we are subordinated. We're not independent. We are subjugated. We are othered. We are on the periphery. That's why they always mock at us. That's why you heard Donald Trump the other day was saying, we're giving money to the Sudan. Countries I've never heard about. That's why he talks like and say, shithole countries. Because we are a joke. Until somebody who's serious came, Ibrahim Traore, and they want to take him down. And you must know that. And you must support Ibrahim Traore. And I'm not saying I agree with everything he does. He's got his strengths and weaknesses like everybody else, but not everybody can be as courageous as him, as Chris Ami, and as many others of our ancestors. This is the duty of your generation. The policy brief calls for the radical dismantling, remember, radical dismantling of colonial universities and the urgent need for epistemic justice in solidarity with global movements, including those resisting genocide. in Palestine, Sudan, in the DRC. We call on scholars, students, and civil society to reimagine and rebuild a truly decolonized and transformative education system rooted in African ontologies and liberationist praxis. So, what is the use when you come to UK and you leave and you do not have, there's no sense of revolution or agency awakened within you to be able to sacrifice for your people, for your community where you come from, or Kimberley, wherever you come from. Why are you not networking whilst you're here? The technology is there. Even when you go back, keep on networking. And you're networking around issues of governance, what is happening in South Africa and what is happening in the country. Because here we're talking about global solidarity movements. So on one context, this is not about just Black people. We make an alignment or a partnership with anyone who's progressive. That's why our government, they found it fit to take the governments of Europe and America to the International Court of Justice under the United Nations to say what you are doing in DRC, in Sudan, and what you are doing in Palestine, in Gaza. It's not civilizational. They are truly now showing you their colors. And I'm not talking as white people as individuals. There's white people who are revolutionaries whom we worked with in the revolution. I'm talking about the white-dominated men who built this system and who dominate the system. And I've mentioned BlackRock, I've mentioned Vanguard. These are global companies now. They built wealth into the future. These are companies now that underwrite people like Google. These are people who underwrite Apple and Google. So if this doesn't make sense to you, if this doesn't preach you to organize and use your intellect, because I believe you're all geniuses, if it doesn't do that, and you still expect our president, Ramaphosa, to give you a job, say, this government is useless. No. Steve Jobs created Apple. Bill Gates, no degree, created Microsoft. You can be the best farmer in Africa and create a global value chain of whatever you're farming. By the time we leave today, as much as you know it, I want to prick your conscience. There's no time to play. The policy, this paper explores the critical imperative of decolonizing the curriculum as a foundational pathway towards inclusive and transformative education. It focuses on the South African context with comparative insights from the broader global South to interrogate entrenched colonial legacies in knowledge systems and educational institutions. If you look at our educational institutions, if you look at our universities, the way they are directed, and I'm talking to you because you're educated, the way they are positioned, the why you are being educated, you are not being educated to liberate yourselves spiritually, mentally, in other words. You are being educated to be commerce in a market system where those who dominate the market system make profit out of you. Let that sink in. Because at the stage of development and underdevelopment that we've reached in this 20th century, this sophistication of thuggery by the Donald Trumps, by all these people, you must be able to see it, and you must see that you are running out of time. The untransformed South African political economy and universities. South Africa's post-1994 political economy remains deeply shaped by the structural logic of colonial and apartheid era extractivism, now refurbished under neoliberal globalization. The early post-apartheid reconstruction and development program, RDP, which held some promise for redistributive transformation, was hastily abandoned. In place came geared growth, employment, and redistribution under our government after 1994, and later as ASPISA accelerated and shared growth initiative for South Africa. Economic economic blueprints that prized open the economy of multinational corporations, entrenched racial capitalism, and sanctified capital flight. So when Gia took over and when Askisa took over, to you, my brothers and sisters who are educated, they never overhauled the structure of the South African economy so that it's reflective structurally, not peripherally, structurally, it's reflective of the black majority. When you say black majority, there is nothing wrong with that. It doesn't mean we're excluding any other races, but we are the black majority. And up to now, from 1994, we are still at the tail end of all the benefits. We are taking all the heat, we are doing all the heavy lifting, and everything is being extracted from us. So here, I would argue, and Askisa, they did nothing. But what they did is they removed capital controls to control the type of money that comes into the South African economy and the money that goes out. So most of the multinational corporations in South Africa, they are Euro and American, and they repatriate, listen very carefully, most of their profits back to Europe and America, instead of plowing back these profits to create jobs and businesses for you. Believe you me, the money is there. Go and do that research. But they will not give it to you, the black boy, because we are so comfortable on the periphery. Because through our actions, we are showing that we do not have the urgent intellectual, pinpointed know-how to undertake this challenge. But I thank the God that Ibrahim Traore is showing that if you truly want to take your country, you must be able to sacrifice your life. It's like that. If nobody tells you, I will tell you. They are not going to let go. The reason why they want to take off Ibrahim Traore is because he's beginning to awaken people. And I'm very pleased there's a traction, there's a mass of Africans in Africa and globally who are beginning to emulate Ibrahim Traore, and their geniuses will rise. The frameworks heavily influenced by the Washington Consensus and global financial institutions ensure that the South African economy remains subordinated to global financial markets and Western multinationals. Remains subordinated. Major corporations externalized their headquarters to Europe and North America, taking with them profits and tax revenues, while capital account liberalizations enabled unprecedented wealth extraction. So major companies that control umnotho, the commanding heights of it, they were externalized. They were allowed under Gia and Askisa. No, you can set up your head office in London, in New York. And capital account controls, because you have to look at the money that is coming to be invested. Not all investors' money that comes in is good money. Some of it is just speculative money. They're just in to make a fast buck through the stock exchange, and they leave when there's no profits. And when you are very labor educated and when you're very trade unionized, because you'll be wanting a better wage and all that, you know what's happening. So they are about maximum profit. They are about always maximizing shareholder value. That's what it is. And every time you want to make a noise, they leave with their money. But what they will do with 18 million South Africans on SASSA, when they do a cost-benefit analysis, they would rather be giving you that money a month so that you do not ascend to power. As long as you are getting that. I do not have qualms if my grandmother and those who are indigent are getting it. But some people who do not deserve to get it, who are supposed to be intellectual soldiers like Traore, they become immobilized. A neoliberal betrayal was mirrored in higher education. The 1997 white paper on higher education and subsequent DHET strategic plans gave only superficial attention to transformation. They fortified Eurocentric curricula, institutional cultures, and governance models, ensuring that the apartheid era academic architecture remained intact, still intact. University education is not fully publicly funded, but rather state-aided. I've already explained that. Pushing thousands of Black students into debt dependency. Graduates are routinely denied access to their certificates over unpaid fees, perpetuating structural inequality, generational poverty, and epistemic injustice. I know many students who finish their honors, who finish this, they cannot. They are told, come with 50% of the money. Not just this situation, all of South Africa, come with 50%, will release to you. Now, so one of the things I want to ask the student leaders here is, why not ask the government to write off this debt for students who've passed? Why not? And instead of wanting to raise VAT, raise wealth tax to pay off that money that is only in universities. Why are students not doing that? Probably they're doing that, I don't know. They'll tell me in Q&A. Why should we pay for education? Why must all the money still go to the imperialistic structure? And all the profits, over 90, it happens all over Africa, they repatriate back to America and back to Europe. Why? Why do you think all of a sudden Trump is saying there's genociders of Afrikaners here? He knows in his mind it's not genocide. He wants to have a hand in South African affairs because South Africa is the gateway to the whole of Africa, so that they can always interfere in our politics and always subordinate us until all of you become like Thomas Sankara, until all of you become like Chris Sanders, until all of you become like Ibrahim Traore. It's an age we cannot pass the generational poverty to our children. You will have to be brave. Thomas Sankara keeps on saying, homeland or death. Homeland or death. Homeland or death. Your homeland, what is indigenously yours, it must be controlled by you. None of us here, not from our president, Ramaphosa, not anybody, tells Donald Trump what to do with America, what to do with the Congress. We don't even announce whether there are elections officially in America with free and fair, but they've got the temerity to tell us, because we've lost the pride of our ancestors, the pride of Skukunis, the pride of Obama, the pride of Ibosi Twan. I'm going back to the past, talking about decolonization of the curriculum. Why I'm mentioning them, I'm not being romantic. I'm twinning them to Ibrahim Traore so that you understand this is part of education. And this is what must fill your mind every day. Because they are competing for your mind every day. Mostly how you behave every day, you might not see it. You can set up another seminar for that. They condition you in so many ways, through the education at universities, through adverts, through cell phones, through what you do. They condition you. You might not see it, but they condition you. And by the time I say, come, we need to do this, we need to do that, at the corner there, time I did now, I'm saying, but I'm glad in our 21st century, a young man is risen. He took over Burkina Faso at 35. Go and see what he's done in 2 years. And I want to talk about what he's done in 2 years, just very quickly before I move on. Structurally, you must always remember that structure. So what is structural is fundamental. It's something that controls everything. It's the hub. This is where you must be. This is where you must fight. What did Traore? First, immediately when he took over, he made certain that uranium, which powers 70% of electricity in Europe, when France was selling it in the international market, they were selling it at $245 US dollars per pound. And Burkina Faso at that time was getting 80 cents. Look at the disparity. Look how they undermine us. And I'm not making this up. Go and look at the apartheid laws. Wherever black people have been colonized, when they made their constitution, go and look. I'm not agitating anybody. Go and look at history. That's why. Curriculum, you must look at it. History is living. Our ancestors are sleeping. They want you to wake up. And I'm glad you are waking up. 80 cents, you can give it to me now. Someone wants to tell me I'm lying. 80 cents to 245 US. We took it over. That is structural. Capital, money. That's why in 2 years, now they've opened their own gold refinery. Our gold here is refined in South Africa. It ends up in Antwerp in Europe. But part of the process here, all those value chains from South Africa to Europe, they are controlled by people of Europe and no more in Burkina Faso. That's why it's managed. All those who are going to university from primary, they are getting paid for free. So you no more have executives of private companies like in South Africa who get 181 million rands a year. And you can't get your NSFAS money and you don't question that. And you don't see it through. You do it fashionably, then along the way, you forget about it. Check the executive salaries. Google it right now as I speak. Check the executive salaries here in South Africa, how much they earn per year. And check most of them. What is their color pedigree? Go and check. This is not racist, and this is truth, and you must know it. We have comrades who are white. We have comrades who are Indian, who speak this language that I'm speaking. So we are against individuals who on merit, and we have black people who sell out black people, who will even sell you right to the grave. It's there. So we just talking truth of the 21st century, the responsibility. We don't want generational poverty moving into your future generations. The student-led growth must fall and fees must fall. All movements of 2015 ignited national and global debates on the coloniality of the university. Yet these movements were met with securitization, managerial inertia, and piecemeal reforms. Institutional responses largely repackaged transformation through corporate diversity, language, and inclusion metrics, while avoiding deep curricular and structural reform. Then I'll go back to the structural. You must be the owner. You must control, and you must call the shots, confidently so. To date, it is business as usual. Only now, with the patronage class of black elites managing a system designed for exclusion. If you look at all the universities in South Africa, the management system, we're speaking as follows, and you can put in there. The management system of all the universities in South Africa is based on a market basis, meaning that it's all about shareholder value and throughput, maximizing profit. It's not about making you a sensitive, cool person, revolutionary, who is embedded in your Africanness, who's embedded in your Ubuntu, who's embedded, for instance, so that from today onwards, why should we pay for education? What is it? Why should we pay for water? Why? A CEO in South Africa who's earning 100 million rands a year, and you, who's working in Checkers, getting 4,000 rands a month, sometimes not every month because you are casualized. They've casualized you actually. They call you sometimes they don't call you. Now, for you to pay for your lights in the country, for you to pay for your water, and compared to the CEO who's earning 100 million rands, no exaggeration, a year, him buying water is nothing. It's definitely nothing. And to you, it's serious business. I want you to let that sink in.
extermination. You can set up another seminar and I can show you how use people. And it's just 56 million natives. Today they're hardly numbered million. You can Google it. They do exterminate people. Genocide. Get rid of you. They did it in States. They did it in New Zealand. They did it in Australia. They did it in Canada. They did it to the Herero in America. But they always trying to make you swallow their pizza of. They make you swallow their pizza of democracy. Yet they do not practice democracy. Meant for you. That was control you. So if it's not the most important thing to benchmark yourself with towering, learn from him and even do better. Well, what could be better than that? Your generation comes to tell me in 5 years' time, say, you know what, I'm working for Manticore. I'm in charge of their whatever. I get 60 million a year. And you speak up. Oh, but Madison, fine. I'm good, definitely. I do not expect that from generation. Everything that I'm back. This is the focus, like they run their company. Showing that they could not hide their characters, you can see what they did in Gaza there. And you can go and look at the clips. Donald Trump not knew what to do. This came from Belgium, who after over 20 million Congolese.
Dear participants, please confirm if you can hear me with a thumbs up.
Of ammunition explored. Find them a better place in Lebanon and Egypt, and we'll take over Gaza with them. I think women who are being raped there, children who are being raped, fathers who are being forced to rape their own daughters in fact, fathers who are being sodomized, a father who is being forced to sodomize his own son, a father who is being sodomized by soldiers in front of his he said already, go and play. Are full of thugs. Anybody who has a brain, they are playing a very dangerous game. And many ways they've shown that they are about dominance. Number one, our preparation for the G20, they never attended. Okay. Number two, something there, Russia, Ukraine. To do. Stand up people. And before you know it, you just see everyone, and we've started fighting each other as that. Yes. I leave that for you, woman. Who do you think are the master public claims? It's because they work on this every day. They find means and ways on how they can get us to destroy ourselves. Because ultimately, they want to externalize African life. I'm not being rhetorical, I am telling you the truth. This Africa that you have, which you don't even own, they don't want you anymore. They want to take it over like they took over America, like they took over Australia and Canada. Canada was not inhabited by the oligarchs, by the ruling class you see there. It was ruled by natives. They got rid of them. So with this Orania and with this Western Cape, you must be warned that a storm is coming. And the sooner you exercise your geniusness, the genius in you that God gave you, everybody's a genius. I'm not using the Western criteria of everybody. And you'll only know your genius. The key to know your genius is to focus and to be prepared to die like Charlie. If you're not prepared to die like Christian or like Steve Biko, if you are not prepared, then your genius will not wake up. Because you can always be controlled one way or the other. You must be prepared to be a savior of your people and of your children. Contemporary geopolitical trends add agency to these efforts. President Ibrahim Traore's vision in Burkina Faso represents a break from neo-colonial dependency, and his government asserts African agency in economic sovereignty and knowledge production. Similarly, BRICS and BRICS Plus movements advocate for epistemic and financial multipolarity, challenging US dollar hegemony and calling for de-Westernization of emerging economies. You know that the United States through SWIFT, I want you to research that, they took over more than 300 billion foreign reserves of Russia. They wanted to destroy Russia. So they thought by taking their foreign reserves. Now ask yourself a question. The United States has been taking foreign reserve of countries who don't seek land. They use the 10 core sanctions. They disallow you to enter their credit rating system. They disallow you from entering their IMF. They disallow you from entering their World Bank. And in that way, you cannot trade. That's why you find the currencies of Africa, all of them, they are not convertible internationally. And you as an intellectual, as an educated person, that doesn't shame you. Have you ever asked yourself, why is the US dollar convertible all over the world, but my currency is not convertible? Why? And so there's a bridge you have to cross. If you want to buy oil from Iran or from anywhere else in the world, you cannot buy them with South African rands. Your reserve bank in each and every every African country, when they sell their goods and services, when we sell our orange to America, to wherever, we also don't want to be paid by Congolese money or by Portuguese money. We want to be paid by the US dollar because it's convertible globally. That's why they call it the petrol. And if you buy petrol, you have to buy only in the US currency. That didn't get there by some stroke of luck or anything. I want you to understand that you who are holding the future of Africa, these people are focused They are dedicated to their craft of dominance. And they know they make monies from you, from slavery right up now. That's why they've othered you and they do not recognize you as human beings. You are property from where profit can be started. But they can give you a discernment or intellect whereby they can make 10 of you out of 10,000 of you. Say, but I can also be like that. And most of us falls for that. Just quickly, I want to say, people in Ivory Coast have risen up against, because there were bases of NATO and France and America then, where they were engaged by terrorists from Ivory Coast, an African sister country, coming to destabilize Burkina Faso. Ibrahim Traore is in constant danger for the betterment in the future of Africa. Yet the digital age has ushered in new forms of imperialism. The digital age. Corporations like BlackRock, Vanguard, Google, and Microsoft now dominate data economies, extracting intergenerational wealth through surveillance capitalism and AI cloud prediction industries. Universities have become complicit in this new colonial frontier by partnering with big tech and promoting innovation agendas detached from humanistic and Afrocentric values. Now, most of the servers, once called cloud or whatever, most of the servers that keep serious big data, what they call big data, that keep all your data, the ones that Google is free, let me do this, let me do this. With AI-powered platforms, they can even map your behavioral pattern. That's why they'll say they'll throw in adverts and all that, they'll see what type of music. Data, information is power. And they're busy mining this data. Listen very carefully. And we are not getting a fee for it. They're telling us it's free. But where is that data kept? Do you know where the data is kept? It's kept in America and Europe's servers, not in our servers. The day they want to close us from that, what are we to do? That's why we must emulate Transformative. That's why we must emulate the Chinese. Chinese, as much as they trade globally, anything that Europe or America has, they have it 10 times better. That's why now they're coming with all these type of trade sanctions. They're trying to disrupt the global economy, and they're trying to stop the ascendancy of China. That's what. Because for the first time in history, America, for the first time, Russia was not even a competitor to America. They were a competitor militarily. But in terms of the economy, America's economy is between 26 to 30 trillion. Russia is about 2 to 3, but militarily, yes. So why they took their reserve was to crush Russia, and after crushing Russia, it was to concentrate from China. Seeing that it didn't work, it brought the Chinese and Russians together. Now, you see there's a trade and tariffs. They're trying to disrupt the economy of China. That's why I'm saying they are devilishly intelligent. Their things don't happen by accident. They follow them through. So when are we going to operate as Africans at a global level? At that level, when? Oh, I'm allowing, I've got nothing to. Who told you control Malawi? Who told you? Who told you control South Africa? Our government doesn't even call the shots when it comes to the economy of this country. Go and Google, I'm giving you homework today, go and see the people who control the Reserve Bank. And go and see the people who have the power to create credit, to create money. The commercial banks, all the commercial banks here. This is decolonization of the curriculum that affects your life every day. There is a conflict of interest. The people who control the commercial banks are the very same people who sit in the Reserve Bank. Why can't you sit in the Reserve Bank? Who says you don't have the brain? Says who? They'll try and intimidate and say, what you don't know, you'll go and research. Who says you can't? Who says EFF and SASCO and PAC can't sit in the Reserve Bank? Says who? Says who? You can sit and you focus. What you don't know, you said. You compartmentalize the job and say, you can this, you can this. Next meeting, next. No, you take decision until you get there, you get consultant until the decisions that are taken are reflective of you. But the power to create money, as much as the government gave that law, but the people who control, go and see the people who control the commercial banks. You know the commercial banks in South Africa, right? They have the power to create credit. You put your money there, they check your money, they lend it out at an interest. That's how they create money out of nothing. In other words, they're extracting your labor. That's what they're doing and monetizing it. And you have no say. And the window dress with the minister, they'll say, no, they first have to go to, no. Every node of power, you must control it, just like Donald Trump in America does the same. Same in England. Why can't you do the same? These are things I want by the time we finish here, whether I'm wrong or right, I want you to invest in these things. There's no government that's going to create jobs for you. Our economy this year, check it again, you grew between 0.9 to 1%. That is no growth at all. It's just to maintain the asset prices of those who own the economy. And these are the architects of apartheid, not black people. So they don't want the economy to grow. They have the monies. Most of the money is externalized, illicit financial flows that go out of the country. And you just sitting. You're happy just to sit. Long shy around with us. And Mina, I believe you're geniuses. Both men and women. Wow. You just have to focus and get serious. Policy recommendations. Besides all the critique I've given, I've got some recommendations. Curriculum reform, embed African philosophies of Ubuntu, indigenous knowledge systems, and Afro technoscience perspectives across all disciplines, develop multilingual, context-responsive learning materials reflected in African realities. Number two, all the centers where money is made, there must be majority representation by African people. The Reserve Bank, the commercial banks, and talking from when they conceptualize policy, not at the peripheral end, they make you the only black manager or two black managers within that bank, and they make you feel you've arrived. No, you must control like everything. From cake to curry, we must control everything. Like if you go to their countries, they control everything. Us, the black majority. That's decolonizing the curriculum for an inclusive, transformative education. Education is not just in university. Everything, the whole political economy, everything is education. It's integrated seamlessly into your lived experience. Don't doubt your lived experience. If you do not like something else and it pains that you've done it in university or is affecting your mental equilibrium or whatever, if you don't like it, you don't like it. And there's a reason why you don't like it. There's a reason why we have many of our students in universities that are going to psychiatrists. Some come from broken home, single home. That impacts. And all those things were not brought about because black people are irresponsible. They were scientifically engineered through apartheid. And I'm sure all of you know the story about it. Epistemic inclusivity, decentralized knowledge production through South-South collaborators, fund historically marginalized scholars and resist the hegemony of Western academic publishing. Most of the books we read in all the universities, it's Western epistemologies. And amongst them, I want to talk about one. People will tell you can't talk about socialism and communism without talking about Karl Marx. And people have their views. My view is when Karl Marx was writing his work, it was at the height of slavery where he knew a guy as intellectual, as powerful as he was, but he never seriously structurally addressed the issue of slavery. And according to me, when he speaks of workers, the proletariat, he's not true. He's never in any of his writing addressed the black issue. Like Frantz Fanon addressed the black issue. Like Malcolm X addressed the black issue. We never. So as much as we must read the epistemology of Karl Marx, but is to read it with a pinch of salt. Our ancestors knew what is communism. Our ancestors knew what is democracy. We have our own geography, we have our own experiences, we had our own ways of doing things. So personally, that's what I think about communists. And I think the greatest knowledge came from our ancestors. For them to have coined that adage, it was after many life experiences. Because for me, that adage, I do not see any philosophy that can repeat that. Whether you look at it from a chemistry point of view, physics point of view, mechanical point of view, any point of view, our ancestors from time immemorial, go to any African country, they told you, if you are not in balance with other people, if you do not fight for balance, and it's not just us human beings, it's also the flora and fauna, our surroundings and environment. That's why we worshipped nature. We saw it as sacred and all that. Those are our epistemologies that can be applied today. Because the epistemologies that we are applying today that are totally Western, they are dominated by them through intellectual property rights. We do not dominate them. Because I hear other people say, no, but you are modern. Yes, we are modern. But things are subjugated here. Because I'll prove it to you many times how you're subjugated. Many times, many examples I can prove to you that you're subjugated. Even all the advertising companies that dominate the world, that take you out to think what to buy, what not to buy, and all that. We are nowhere near. We don't control that thinking process. Wear this cap, wear that hair, don't wear this, wear that. I love this suit, I don't love that suit. It's not dominated by us. We don't have intellectual property. They tell you what to think, even if they're not forcing you. But they study psychology and they know how to persuade you slowly over and over and over and over again until you don't even want to cook at home. Don't even want to cook at home. Honey, we can just order this, and it goes on and on and on. Nobody wants to cook at home. And someone will ask you, what's wrong with that? Right. So digital and AI justice regulate data colonization and AI development by promoting frameworks based on African and African cosmologies to prevent new forms of epistemic and economic expertise. It's already there. If you look at most of Western technologies, that is coming Google, whatever, the values that are there, is Western values. They put Western values, and they also put something they call subliminal advertising. And I'm sure you know what is subliminal advertising. So for instance, you can look at the face of this gentleman or the end of this gentleman here. You just see the face. That's what your conscious, because the brain works, the conscious and unconscious. That's just what you see. But when you focus quite clearly into the picture, you'll actually see a woman or a man mating with a dog. If you look at me, no, this is true. I'm not making this up. Probably some of you can support me. I know what I'm talking about. When you look at it closely in the picture, when you look at it, you can laugh. It's a man mating with a dog. But when you look at it consciously, but when you focus on subconsciousness, so they call it subliminal advertising. Because subliminal advertising always is the one that really controls everything that happens in the body. You're not always thinking consciously, is my heart beating? Is my blood flowing? No, that is controlled by your subconsciousness brain. Is powerful. That's why when you see now people, they behave in a certain manner, and you wonder why people behave in a certain way. It's all about control. Global solidarity is strengthening international alliances of progressive scholars, students, and policymakers committed to resisting imperialism, colonial violence, and epistemic erasure in Palestine, Sudan, the GRC, and beyond. Wherever there's progressive people, whatever race they are, we must help them. We must definitely. So merit. In America, there is very progressive people of every race who are against this oligarchy, that dictatorship that is going on in America. They are there, and you can't know those. But those who dominate the imperialistic system, the finance of international intergenerational war that is going on right now, we are in serious danger. Conclusion: decolonizing the curriculum is not merely an act of intellectual revision. It is a political imperative for justice, freedom, and self-determination. Universities must cease being outposts of imperialism and become incubators of liberation. As South Africa reflects on its democratic failures and unfinished struggles, the demand for epistemic justice becomes inseparable from the broader fight against capitalism, settler colonialism, and global oligarchy. We call on African governments, regional institutions, SADC, African Union, and civil societies to embrace decolonization as a comprehensive, long-term project of rebuilding freedom from the ground up, bottom up, not just top down. This must be done not only in the interest of equity, but in defense of humanity's collective future. Another way of saying that we can have that. With that, gentlemen, I'd like to say thank you. Yeah, more.
So much. I think this was a very informative session. We've learned a lot from the conversation that we had. Dr. Manos. Yeah, like I say, the topic on its own, it is controversial. Some of these things we have to just, like you said, we have to just but like I said, I put a disclaimer with the hoping. I think I must put another one now. Victory and the discourse, that came out of it. This was still that I tell you what actually that the viewers, the conclusions that were made in this presentation are not of the Research Capacity Development Unit, the University of Johannesburg and its affiliates. These are the views and conclusion of the facilitator, Dr. Malos Norway. Thank you. Let me just see if I am able to access my slides. Let me just check again. Okay, there I am. All right. So what we are going to do now, we will open the questions and your contributions. I will normally just make an open discussion so we can talk, we can share our experience that we want to share with us. Or if we have a question, then this is the time of asking questions. If there's any contribution you want to make, this is the time where you can make your contributions. So at the end of you, to lead us in this session.
Thank you very much. It's Q&A, even a comment. I want us to engage. I'm a thick skin scholar, and even if you don't agree with me, as long as there's respect, you can even say, Dr. Manos, what you said there was nonsense. I'll ask you, okay, why is it nonsense? Because you're not actually saying what I said, it's nonsense. And you will educate me why it is nonsense. And then we must be open to that type of interaction. So I would really welcome that. But on a serious note, there's no jobs coming for you. And I'm talking about serious jobs. There's no jobs. So I don't want you beautiful people, African people, getting casualized jobs. I'm not saying you mustn't take them. Casualized jobs, meaning that you are global outsourcing you. They are basically outsourcing you. They do it in many ways that's material. So there's no job. And when an economy is growing at 0 to 1%, I hope someone has checked that. For each to create serious jobs and small businesses for African people, it must grow at about 7% minimum, I would say 7%. If it's not growing that, and it will not grow that. It will trade hard that day. understand global political economy in that sense. If nothing is happening between these two big economies in the world, actually they stopped. America is stopped because they're the biggest, followed by China. Nothing is being happened. So there's no jobs that are being created. So this is serious. You are the conscience of your society. I want you to start thinking continentally and globally, not just South African, not just Angolan. It's a joke to think Angolan. NVIDIA, which is an IA which builds semiconductors, their capitalization, and their capitalization is about 3 trillion, and people trade. And that is the whole GDP of Africa. So how do you think South Africa alone will suit alone, or just can stand with just one company? They can't. Do you think the whole of Africa can take on America? Yes. Bring our currencies together, bring our governments together. Yes, there will be problems, but you are educated, you are there to deal with those problems. Of course, there will be problems. Just like if you're going to coach soccer, the coach will tell you, no, you don't kick the ball like this, you do it like this. These are problems. Fix them. So since at UJ and all universities of South Africa, for Africans from all over Africa, start networking. You better start networking, knowing each other. And you better start opening companies once you're still at UJ. Getting your driver's license, getting your gun license, getting everything once you're in university. And looking for business online whilst you're still, whilst you're studying your politics, your economics, or your engineering. Open your business whilst you're there, so that it has legitimacy and time. Open your business whilst you're in. Don't wait to graduate, then go look for a job. Politicians and once you are here at university, network and be asking yourselves, guys, what business can we do? Where from? I'm from Free State. Where from? They're from Zili. Where from? Ghana. Maybe, guys, we can do this. Do you have Acha in Uganda? No, we don't have Acha in Uganda. We can start exporting Acha in Uganda. Can we get the SRCs of the universities in Uganda and SRCs here? This stuff doesn't matter. First box on it. I'm just giving you an example. There is nothing easy in life. For me to have come here to get my degree right after PhD, it was hell. And also tells you it's easy, it's a lie. Reading a book is not a joke. Book never reads itself, but you can take them 6 from the library and you put them in the room, they just look at you. So questions, let's engage. Anything, let's engage. Who thinks there will be jobs for us? Who thinks? Otherwise, I'm going to pick up someone I want to hear why they're all done. So yes. Yeah, sure.
Say these are limited to us, restricted to us. As if I say us, also include Iran and Iran, right?
Yeah.
And they have them, so they are supposed to be there because weapon industries and power, right?
Right.
And when you say that we should be conscious and transformative, why do you think then we should allow any more countries to have more independence? And then based on taking Israel to the ICJ now is because we fight against genocide. So instead of saying, let's have our own weapons to show that we can get bigger guns, how about we don't the guns, keep the guns, it's fine, but let's change the laws. Let's restrict your access. You look at now, even whatever the ICJ rules, right? America has to be country. We have Americans when I think whatever the ICJ then it supports Israel. So how about you take it for transforming our laws and the economy and how we engage the future? Because we said from the beginning, we said to put something is useful, we should check it that's meet our standards as well as contribute to the past, that figure the past, present, the future. Take that one related.
Why nuclear energy? Today, nuclear energy has been proven to be the most lethal, the most destructive energy. Now, what you do with the weapon, any weapon, whether it's nuclear energy, So for instance, if someone is breaking into your house and my door and I told you, look, just first the panic person and all the cops will come. When the cops come at 2 a.m., first the panic person, make sure that the alarm going when they come. They don't come empty-handed. They come with guns and you're checking and there is firefighters will be there. So what I may say, philosophically human nature is conflictual. You cannot describe out of intrinsic. So it's peace points. But in political theory, there's what they call an anarchic world. We don't have an overarching government that governs. So the best that we can set up for answering your question is what they call a balance of power. So if you have nuclear weapons, I have nuclear weapons. There's what they call mutually assured destruction, MAD, MAT. No one will shoot at nuclear weapons. America will shoot nuclear weapons to Russia will nuclear weapons. So what they do is, amongst themselves, they don't attack themselves directly. They use proxy wars, conventional wars. They use Ukraine, they use South Africa, and they destroy each other until the big boys and the big girls and create okay, this is how we can change. So what am I saying? The very fact that life itself intrinsically is conflictual. We cannot be romantic and trust that there will be peace all the time. Life is similar, somehow accumulating. And there's time to cry, there's time to laugh when we're happy. The seasons of happiness and of plenty, 7 years of plenty, and the 7 years of famine. If famine is really serious, that would there's no food, there's no rain, children are dying. Some of us have seen it in the news. So nobody can take away that. It's as good as death. No scientist, no matter how smart you think you are, can solve the short death. So because human beings engage in conflict from time to time, another one develops a better gun in order to control them. That's what it is. That's why we see South Africa aligning with the time. That's why we see, as much as we're aligning, we say we are non-aligned. We say to America, you're our friend, and China is our friend. And America doesn't want us to be friends with China. They just want us to. But now, why we're being friends, why we do have friendship with China and Russia, not that we agree with everything they say now, is because they become a countermeasure to America. So there's American interests in South Africa, but there's also Chinese interests. Actually, China surpassed Europe and as the biggest investor in South Africa. So, because of the nature of life, it's conflictual. So it's important for us to get nuclear weapons. And that's what Stalin did after the Second World War. When America bombed Nagasaki and Nagasaki, they were telling the world, we are the people, we control you. Us, the white supremacists, the imperial, we control you. And this is what 10. Then that's why Stalin ran around and beat the lock, he's like, counter. That's why China has been nuclear. So whatever America did to Iraq, to go in there, or any of these countries to go in there, or to go to Libya, they can't reach China, and they can't reach it. Of course, we will have mad, mutual, assured destruction with nuclear weapons. And they won't exchange nuclear weapons with Hamas. They'd rather sacrifice South African. If Russians are willing to give us, they're taking us a share of South Africa, we'd rather split. We start a movement slowly. It's a medium term and a long term plan. We split Cape Town out of, because Cape Town is positioned South Africa. There's a sea coast there, there's everything. You have to split, and they work on it slowly. That's what happened when Jews in 1948, after Second World War, they went to the land of Palestine. History watch there. Yeah, they went to the land of Palestine. Now, who's being kicked out of his land now? Who got kicked out of America? Who got kicked out of Canada? Who got kicked out of New Zealand? So if you are sleeping, they will kick out your children and your grandchildren, and they'll be asking. They're so thinking they're so well with Microsoft computers, and look at them, our forefathers, they thought they were so well instead of, man, they even had someone to show them, Ibrahim, but still they were dazed. Yes. I saw that.
if we look at, I think about so if you look at let's see. But my question is, why must when we are able to revolutionary leaders or leaders, why must they always come in a form of leadership? And the reason why I'm saying that is because in July 2024, you postponed the election from established to have been getting across. And I think if he responded that we are supposed to allow people to vote for him, which they also believe that he is the correct leader to lead the other country. So why must we always have those kind of ideas that people are not really allowed to participate in elections, therefore, mind when they are.
Fair question. To begin with first, did you want to answer?
No, I want to add something.
Oh, please do, please do.
I want to know, talk about dictatorship, right?
Yeah.
Do you think it's possible to apply democracy in Africa? Because you see that a lot of countries like Korea, China, they got developed because of dictatorship. So do you think we should use the same thing to develop our continent, or we can also use democracy to develop Africa? Or to Ibrahim to reduce actually the weapon to get into power. So do you think we should use the same thing, or we can apply something different in Africa?
You want to answer? You want to answer? You can answer. You can start. Yeah, just make sure that I make sure.
I think then how you define democracy is changing from how the forefathers of America, if you look at the second amendment of America, the right to bear arms, that was part of the forefathers because guns was the only thing that could protect yourself. So we were fighting Vienna Ghana. So it was their right, the forefathers said, to make sure everyone has a right to democracy survives, everyone must have a right to bear arms. So if in a case when the state comes and it tries to do what they're doing, you have the right to bear arms. Like try that firearms is the most difficult place in this. But I from 2021 and still waiting 25%. So it's difficult. Whereas in America, that rights is different. So now I must wait for the cops or I must get private security. So you can see in terms of apartheid, I don't believe apartheid tied, just got privatized. If we stop with the constitution because you're black, so now the constitution because you're poor. Like and we also empower the system because what happens, you're gonna graduate, you're gonna start getting a work from KPMG or to your postgrad in front of lecture, or you're gonna move to mid-grad Samsung and then go back to the class and get GTI the weekends or flap at DJ, Fridays. But you see, we're not fixing the problem. You're not looking at the core, but you're enabling it because you're out of it. Because me, I don't have to worry about Soweto. Like if you look at the power and electricity problem in Soweto, it's a crisis. But you don't care because they did load shedding for them, but not anyone else. But they call it power reduction. Because remember, like if you look back, the CEO has 100 billion to add a casual worker. Me paying electricity is 2 fees of electricity. Now my child is to study under a candle lights, whereas I have inverter, backup electricity, backup water, more water. Like what's electricity is nothing to me. So you need to then implement systems that work for South Africa. Yeah, I think the best way would be that's what like you need like China, they have 5-year plans. Dictatorship has to happen for things to change to happen. Because imagine if you have Congress, if you have parliaments, if you can take decisions unilaterally, if you can pass the budgets, we went to go ahead 3 times before you passed it. And it still might not pass it. So dictatorship helps in fast forwarding the movements because not everyone is waiting, but it's a matter of innovation time.
Let's give you a chance. I'll answer you, my brother. I still, but we must have reached other agencies. Yeah.
Just mistake and maybe not for right? I think, and this is probably subject to question, right? That sometimes, not even sometimes, democracy isn't fit for where Africa is currently, right? So the problem that Africa is having dictatorship, right? But the word in itself is not really horrible. Yeah? The problem is that the type of dictators we have had are ones who are based off self-interest and observation, right? They're not for the people. I believe, done like what Ibrahim is doing, right? It is for the betterment of the people, we've established that we've been lightified, we are sleeping. You know, you go home, you watch TV, you watch ads, you buy, you consume all of this, right? Sometimes it is not in the best interest of the collection to choose the way forward, especially if the collection that we have agreed is not fully focused and fully sharp. That's my attitude.
Thank you. This,
I think it's easier said than done. Just imagine today that the current president become a dictator. Would you stay in South Africa? Would you agree with that? It's easy to say, I think we need that for the better country, but would you choose to be in a country where there's a dictator? Would you be fine with that?
okay, give me a chance to, okay, sorry, sir, yeah, please.
What I want to interrogate it from another part.
Please, my friend.
Particularly, one of the cardinal objectives.
Let's learn from you, please.
Deep discourse. It revolves around the decolonizing curriculum. And yes, as I stand down here, I'm reflecting on that. Yes, it looks as if the colonial masters have come, but may I say they are still much in us here. They form a very worse neo-colonialism. They are still very much alive. But what I would like us to interrogate in this, particularly the state actors, the pivotal roles that the state actors will play in decolonizing curriculum. What do I say? If you look at the design policies, the design curriculum, I'm talking of the state actors. In terms of funding, they hold the knife and the gap. And again, too, they control human resources. So if you are talking of decolonizing curriculum, I think we need to interrogate the roles, the pivotal roles of the state actors. Now, if you look at our curriculum, like you already said, they are more or less like Eurocentric curriculum. Now, the colonial powers have come, but they are still with us. Most of our books, our curriculums, our syllabus, they are still Eurocentric. So I think we should debate and interrogate that area. How will our curriculum reflect our African essence, what we stand for? You said it too during your presentation that we face a kind of existential stagnation that if care is not taken. So I think we need to reflect on that. How do we situate that our curriculum reflects African identity? That's just the
Thank you so much. I just want to bring together everything that people are saying outside of them and come to us. He's talking about we have state actors when they leave us with power and how we get that we should decolonize. I'm going to say from me, because we're sharing the knowledge here, governance is not just about state actors, it's about you in the power. And you must really go all the 9 yards, all the way. It must become a way of life. To begin to think just because you've marched once or twice, it will happen in one. Right now, as we speak, Traore is fighting terrorism in Burkina Faso that is being perpetrated by France and NATO. So some of these jihadists that you saw come up in Mozambique, they are actually CIA funded and they will save. The whole idea is to cause destabilization. But when there's no destabilization, when there's no peace, there's no development. So he is right. The duty is not only of state actors, it's also of civil society. Civil society is churches, it's mosques, it's trade unions, it's community-based organizations, it's you. So for me, the question is organize. You organize to put pressure. So there must be an interface between state and non-state actors. And it must become the critical mass, especially given the experiences that is built up coming from bottom. So just imagine for Traore to have sat with a group of guys, say, no, we're going to take this country by coup, by force. Not elections. Now I'm answering, not by elections, but force. He knew, he knew it could have cost him his life. He knew. But for me personally, why I still favor Traore, not naively, because not even I can be perfect, not even one person here. I don't care how educated you think you are. Everybody has mistakes. It's something also intrinsic in humanity. We will make mistakes. That's why we need to have meetings and encourage each other and correct each other. But Traore has proven, unless there's other evidence, since he took over, the results are there. And even some of the people who've underwritten those results, for me, they are very serious scholars who've gone there and have spoken to them. One of them I've spoken to is Dr. Arikana Shombo. But he is doing something else. I've seen it with my eyes, my Mr. For me, that's an educated woman, very committed to African people. She's African. And there are others from our country, from our government, who've seen what Charles is doing. And there's no money he's holding. He doesn't have accounts in America. He doesn't have accounts in Singapore. He doesn't have everything. He wants to make sure if they get him, because he knows they can get him. He wants to make her this. He wants to improve where Thomas Sankara left. So none of us can be perfect. It's not a question of being perfect. And coming back to dictator, when we talk dictatorship, we're not talking of a dictatorship of a junta, just a group of those soldiers. When you speak of a dictatorship can be democratic, just like Chinese Communist Party. We're talking of the dictatorship of the people, meeting people's wants. The democracy that we are having here in Africa, that is being financed and sponsored, it's a Western type of democracy. They themselves, the West, who run the whole globe, they're not democratic. They put across very cleverly a facade of democracy. The Republicans and the Democrats, the Tories and Labour Party in England. Look at their global enterprise. Why do you think NATO is there? Why do you think there's a proxy war to go and destroy Russia? It didn't start in 2022. It started with a coup that was masterminded by CIA in 2014. I can go on and I don't want us to lose track. I would support a dictatorship. For instance, our forefathers just now, some of them were alive, not perfect again, who took over the armed struggle that was supported by the whole of Africa. I was there, that was supported by Nigeria, by Kenya, Nyerere, that was supported by everyone, right? There was a block here in South Africa. There were not. In Zimbabwe, they were lost. In Samora, they were lost. Constitutional laws that othered us, that saw us not. But our father said, to hell with this. We will have our own dictatorship of liberation movements. And we will crush this law of theirs. Just because someone pronounces to say this is a constitution, this is a law, and it's not serving us, and it's mocking at us as Black people, and you tell us we mustn't be dictatorial to take it down. There is no human relation in rulership that can ever be perfect. But on a cost-benefit analysis, on a comparative analysis, at a historical point in time, I think what Traore has done up to now and what Thomas Sankara did for Burkina Faso up to now is there is nothing they can paint Traore. Traore has proven with everything he's doing, he's building a structure, an organic structure, so that he's very scientific to Traore. Because I follow him, what he's building, so that if they take him down tomorrow, he's building a superstructure, a fundamental structure in all the productive sectors of Burkina Faso, because they have a confederacy now. So that even if they take him down, they will keep on rising and rising. And I think it's a brilliant architecture of what he's doing. Now, this Western democracy that's monitored by them, where they pay or where they subsidize, most African budgets are subsidized by monies from America, which they get from us anyway, through the US reserve dollar currency. So they sell us this trick of democracy, multi-party democracy. Why they want a multi-party democracy? Because this is where they recruit and play one against the other. They've been playing this game for centuries. They are on all sides of the conflict. They are pastors, they are sangomas like me, they are everything. They are terrorists, they are the good guys. So when it comes to even making peace, it's determined by them and they already know what the outcome is. So Traore has understood that. Thomas Sankara understood that. Even President Thabo did make a statement that what Traore is doing is correct. He did make that statement. You can Google it. He did. He said what Traore is doing is correct. Even the former chairperson of African Union, what was the name? Our Minister of Foreign Affairs, the lady, Zuma's wife, President Zuma's wife. Yes, he made a statement. Now, for me, leaders like that, like Osazana Zuma and Mbeki, when they make statements, Louis Farrakhan of the United States to say what Traore is doing, he doesn't have to be perfect. He will make mistakes. But it's not easy to put your line every day against the most powerful countries in the world. So it's commendable what Traore is doing. The dictatorship is coming in. Unless you show me the evidence that is benefiting him and his girlfriends and his wife only, that is got accounts in France. If you can show me, then I would agree with you, again. But until that evidence to the contrary is there, I even know Burkina Faso students here who tell me, Malusi, this is a reincarnation of Thomas Sankara. Never expect any leader to be perfect. No, we're not saying. But protect the 60 goodness that he has, the bravery is putting. It's our duty to protect our brave leaders. They are our black jewels. It's our duty. Let not someone come and try to denigrate our leaders because of the weakness they have. They will come and tell you about his sex life and that. They say he's not even advertising, maybe you just caught him with another third girlfriend. But yeah, now he's still. And they will use that to try and besmirch his character. But to those who can think, because all of us have made those mistakes in life. One way or the other, you can be totally clean. But I respect a woman or a man who sacrifices his life, notwithstanding his mistakes, who puts his life for his people, who puts his life for Africa. How has become a point of reference, like Thomas Sankara became a point of reference, like Dr. Ezekiel in London, he has become a point of reference, like women become a point of reference, Patrick Lumumba has become a point of reference. Nobody's saying our leaders must be perfect. Man, yes, there's a certain behavioral change in effect. But immediately when you want to mock them and say, hey, they've done this, and ask yourself, have you not done this in life? Have you not? But talking too much like that, have you ever put your life on the line for your people? Have you? Have you ever been prepared to go to jail for 10 years for your people? Have you? Or you shy away from that? So sometimes we need to respect ourselves. And this is essential. We must protect our leaders, those who do it. And we must take down those, you see, those who have bank accounts in the States and in Europe and elsewhere. We are against those. Every African leader must invest their money here. If they are sick, they must use the hospitals here. Everything here. Then we know they are committed here. Once now he's sick, he's got cancer, he has to go to England and all that must stop. If it was a mistake, then it's fine. But from now, students must demand, because that forced them. If he makes a decision because him and his family have got billions, they must go to France for medical care. Why can't he take those billions and make state-of-the-art hospital and improve hospitals here? And part of that blame also comes on you. Because as students, as young people, we must organize. Governance is about putting pressure on our leaders at the top. That's what Traore is doing. That's how our fathers. Kisanu, when he went to join the controversy, he was about 25 years. He had finished at Rhodes University. He was about 25. Young man. He led the utility detachment that went through Zimbabwe and came in 40 years. Kisanu, at 25. If he can do it, why can't you do it? Why couldn't I not do it? So part of the blame, as much as we blame them, as you say in the state lectures, it's also up to you. Organize, and start. If you're not prepared to suffer, then maybe you won't lose. We have an electricity issue here. Now it's now become a culture on and on. And if you want to start organizing people, they'll say, the electricity is coming back. No, let's go to campus square. And that type of thinking comes because of lack of seriousness. You can see there's a storm that's coming. You are intelligent. but you take things in an exceptional fluid way. Anyone who wants to contribute, ask a question, please. I'm not going to do you down, my brother. Can we hear ladies as well, please? Please, please, please. After the lady, can you go on here? Oh, please, doctor, please. Oh, you, ma'am. Do you want the microphone? Okay. Okay.
So, decolonizing the curriculum to align with transformative education. I begin to ask the question like, and we know that when we talk about what is the curriculum design, we all know that all of us here are the users of the curriculum. But unfortunately, in designing the curriculum or planning the curriculum, the main actors, that is, the implementers in the curriculum, mostly are not being carried along. For example, the teachers in the classroom are the implementers of the curriculum. But in designing this curriculum, they are being left out. That is where the problem begins. Classroom thought. This teacher, whose level was part of the planning of the curriculum, gets into the class, sees the students in the classroom, we begin to handle them. But we are not part of the planning of the curriculum. How do you handle them? That is one. Then two, another issue arises. Imagine a child living in the wilderness. What happens? So I'm going to cite an example. This child already knows that you can light a matchstick, use a palm front, and use it to make fire. And now the child was moved from the rural to the urban city, where you talk about transformative education using AI tools. For example, you use computers to make things happen very fast. And now the child goes into a kitchen where you have a gas cooker, you have some other AI tools. The child begins to imagine, how do these things work? Curriculum, designing the curriculum, transformative education. How does the child apply the knowledge that he has inherited originally from the rural to the city? That is where the problem begins. And now the teacher will be the one to deal with all of this. The teacher begins to imagine, what kind of child is this? And why is this child different from others that I have been handling? The big question is, the teacher must be part and parcel of, like I come from Nigeria. I know what I'm saying. In most cases, I have taught in primary, in secondary, in college of education, in the university. I've taught in all these places. And I know the problem that the teacher faces in the class, because the teacher was not originally part of the planning of the curriculum. The teacher comes to the classroom to meet all sorts of children from different parts of life. Those of them from the middle, from average, high class society, and all of those. That begins to tackle all these problems. So my contribution is planning the curriculum. Who happens to teach the learners must understand that there is a role for the curriculum planners. There is a role they must play, which is, if there's a way they can talk to their parents who happen to be maybe in government, to please allow teachers to be part and parcel of the planning of the curriculum to make the work easier for them in the classroom. So that is my own submission.
You, my brother, and you, the last one is 10 minutes for just taking focus with telling just 10 minutes, but you and in the last one. Yes. Implementation of this, you mentioned.
So my brother, other COVID rather jobs on the I find it here constantly enough. That jobs are how to power them. He said we must complete the 5 days, but he never said anything about them bringing back what he took from us. All the countries born majority shares in the African industries. Do you think is the fighting power is strategy of bringing African countries together with the effective since most African countries play the role of puppets from there are lots of questions, but you first control.
I have a question, right? Where do you draw the line between advocacy and strategy? Because you gave an example, there's no electricity, right? We can go on the street and advocate, right? Where now do you draw the line between just making noise and actually having strategies to change things? You mentioned something about what was the question? The last question? So wait now, what the role of diplomacy in this decolonization? Because we see that those are you call them there are people who, we are ruled by those countries, right? By those superpower. So now how do we use diplomacy in that context? And to think about what the president was in the US. What's the role of diplomacy in this decolonization? How do we deal with the people who are actually making us suffer? And the last thing is about the presentation on education, right? And to come back to my first question, I'm from TRC Congo. Right. Our system is being built to send people at work, right? So to prepare you to go to work for someone. So we don't have this education system that is in South Africa, right? So how, in my position right now, how do I bring about a change? Because I can do advocacy, but what's the strategy that should use to go and actually help to change our system? Because the system needs to be built for what the country needs. Our country needs farmers, our country needs people who know mining and who can do something about it. Our country needs other things. So how do you, as you say, we don't have to wait for the government, we can do something. How do I do something in my position? Do I just do advocacy or I can use other tools as well?
I'll answer both questions. I first want to say to my sister what she said about this is what I was talking about when I was defining the 3 terms of what a curriculum is, what is planned, what you already told you, and the correct story. She's speaking out, say, assume safely, correct me if I'm wrong, I said she's speaking as a teacher, lived experience. So she is not allowed to put her lived experience into the value chain of forming a curriculum. There's a living example. And it creates a dissonance in the child. You understand? What happens to the child's lived experience then? Because most of the time, it's just like it's a pumpkin from the rural area or whatever. No, that's not what the Chinese said. The Confucius philosophers from the rural areas, everything, until J.D. Zanzibar, when he called them Chinese peasants and all that, but they still went for him and they said the peasants are now having the work. So, to my sister, and to answer your question and your question, I would say, do what you can wherever you are right now. For instance, if you have to do advocacy, you do it. But the jugular thing to do, you see what Traore did. He must have thought about everything he spoke about. Everything what we're speaking about is not moving, not his coming to Tamar. All of us, there's nothing new under the sun. But Traore said, because that's the trick, never underestimate the West side. They're very powerful. Never underestimate them, right? So, Traore, what he did, to answer your question, expression of that conversation, he went for power, but it was true that he wanted to say this. So if you decide to do advocacy on that person, it's fine, we can still do that. But I want you to think about this, ladies and gentlemen, if you are going to have the guts to take the power, you take the power, the levers of governance, you take it by force. And you will be killed, eh? You take it. Because sometimes I see parliamentary politics is another strategy of what's called what it breeds for me personally, even here in South Africa. It breeds revolutionaries who are too rich and who are not committed to the people. If you are really committed to the people, you live the lifestyle that they live, more or less. You live exactly the lifestyle that they live, and you live amongst them. Right. So some of our revolutionaries in they are not a match for Traore or Thomas Sankara. So you can even see the salary, the lifestyle, how it is Traore and everything. Yes, you still have people who don't like you. So I would say, my brother, go for the power. But yes, you can lose your life. But you must be true to the people. Go for the power. You and your group, when you have that power. This brother spoke about, you see, this parliamentary processes, when you have to pass the budget, then taken back, that's slowed down. Those who can extend the grandchild. If grandchild is not from a parliamentary or a constitutional democracy, is a military man who took over by force. And as he rightly said, picture that, please people think about this. He took over, but what makes him different? So he doesn't have to go through a community park and you go through the chief whip and the caucus, and people are making fun day in parliament. At the end of the month, they're earning lots of money. They go to their posh houses. You go back to your own cook. So one way or another, you're still being played. Because somebody is enjoying a good life and you are not. And you are falling for the sweet words. I think, according to me, I'm not mentioning names yet, in the whole of Africa, a true revolutionary will not sound like Traore. Get the salary like Traore, live exactly like the people. No flashy cars, no flashy suits, no what. Every cent must go. In South Africa right now, we shouldn't be having a problem of education. That we should be having strategies on how to be better education. Money is more than enough. But now we see money before the NSFAS money comes, it has to go through another third meeting. Why can't the state just put the money in the bank? Why must it go through other intermediaries for what? I have a background in finance. I don't see any reason why it must be go. Because I become suspicious. Someone wants to get a cut when it goes through intermediaries and all that. So true revolutionaries, they put their lives on level. And that's what my brother called for the power, go for it. That's why we should think about trying to educate the reform social and when you go for the power, you that's right. And since my Nigerian sister is here, my Nigerian brother is there, I want to clear this. I think one of the countries that can really bring, according to me, I'm being subjective, that can bring traction to Africa. Because our Nigerian brothers, they are all over the world. They're educated. Therefore, this is like everybody. Most populated, they supported the liberation struggles of Africa within the oil liberation. I think if Nigeria had within Nigeria, what's the book? You can imagine if Nigeria had 20 Ibrahim Traorés, things going through court, if people as committed as Ibrahim Traoré. Because for me, it's Nigeria and Congo that are the missing, that can really push of Africa. That's what I think personally. And yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed that Nigeria is not really moving. If Nigeria were to really move, because of their population, because they are all over the world, sure, we will get so much traction, it's unbelievable. I'm telling you, Burkina Faso is small and all that, but Nigeria is, and not only being massive, intellectual, they're highly educated, and not only that, they've got one of the minerals that the whole world wants. What is it? Oil. So if Nigeria had 20 Ibrahim Traorés, even better than Ibrahim Traorés, know all this parliamentary, what everything just straight. So that's what I pray for Nigeria. If we can have 20, 50 Ibrahim Traorés, suspend parliament for the next 50 years. And Africa, I'm telling you, Africa will go crazy. Africa and Congo are the missing things for Africa. Last speaker. Yeah, I just wanted to add. Let's give him time, guys. Please, let's give him a minute.
I just wanted to ask, do you somehow believe that South Africa is ready for this radical change? Or South Africa itself is so dependent on the system from its external powers?
South Africa is not ready for a real change, but the real change will come. It will come in the night because the ingredients are already there. It's like we have petrol closed here and that. It just takes someone to fix something by mistake, it will explode. The ingredients are already there. But the parliamentary system that we have, like South Africa, we've given up, we gave in too much at the expense of black people. In 1994, when we came into power, we allowed them to, we agreed to take upon their apartheid debt that was suppressing us. Our government agreed to pay back that debt to IMF and World Bank. For what? Because apartheid was huge, it was down. Number two, you allow major companies to go and headquarter outside the country in Europe and America. That makes us junior. They are juniorizing us and removing capital accounts, which means all the money, most of the money they can move. Those are strategic mistakes that we made. Even if the economy grew under clearance, that economy was growing to make black South Africa create a black elite. That is not structurally entrenched, not structurally, but that was debts. So this whole BPE thing is not a structural thing. We are not taking back our permanent heights. It's based on a debt dependence because those shares, if you cannot pay, they get taken back from you. What they call share buybacks. So there's nothing we doesn't need a few. So South Africa is not ready. Even the parliamentary system, I wish South Africa had 10 towers and we can suspend parliament for a while, maybe for the next 100 years, and have people as committed. South Africa, because we have South Africa based on Donald Trump wants, and if we can have 20 towers here in South Africa, but this parliament going to parliament and arguing and arguing and sounding very smart and all that. The real test is to put your life like tower limits. That's the real test. Yeah, that says every story when he speaks, that man speaks as loud as me. He's very, but the soldier and my cousin know the kills. But speaks softly. But his actions speak loud. Everybody, let's give him a
Thank you, guys. Just come here with okay, thank you. We want to thank all the participants, for your time that you took. We normally hold our seminars online, but for today we insisted that it should be sort of in a hybrid form. And we tried our best, to we have you here, we are here for support that you gave us today. For those who have not filled the feedback survey, I think in front of you will see that there are QR codes that are there. You can scan and fill the survey that sure that the detailed review and the ones that always to generate a certificate of attendance for you. And that will send to you for attending this event. It's a very nice certificate. You will see when you receive it. Yeah. So also just reminding you that what the facilitator was saying, the engagement that we done, put a disclaimer on that and say it is not our views, the University of respect our views, not to impact the review of the participants and the view of the participants as well as that of the facilitator for the seminar for today's celebration of Youth Month. I also want to thank the team that was behind the preparations that we have done here, colleague Lawrence and Ms. Kokesopila sitting here. director of any government, what allowed us to do what we are doing here today. Everything we have to, pass it by their approval that we could gather and be able to have this seminar physically. I think it's needed. Well, sometimes we have to see each other face to face. We just, talk. It's virtual in most cases, but we also need to just visit each other. And we also see the faces behind the talks that we hear sometimes. So we thank the whole research capacity development team. We have other colleagues who are not here today who has also been very influential in the preparation phase of this workshop. Dr. Manos, we thank you once again. The insights that we received, from this seminar, they were very, very, just seminar. We traversed across both academic, political spaces, and so on, even economic spaces. It's a lot of information to be received from this, and we thank him. We thank him for that. We also have a bit of some refreshments. We do what we would do. Some coffee. We have some biscuits called today. So I think maybe, before we leave, we can just maybe have something. And then we can also have don't want to take photos on your own. You can maybe use this site. We can also have a group photo as well, just for us to yes, thank you so much, guys. Thank you for being with us today. And thank you for supporting the research capacity development. So I want to thank online audience, for their work that continues to be with us. We have been meeting in the past, we thank you so much. We thank you so much for what and for physical audience, please, all the participants, may you please just leave your field if you field it, in article, then please just leave it for us. Thank you.
Or you can come to the stage, I don't know, that's something that they all parts of the day. Thank you very much. We're taking time. We're taking care of the station. And just finding you to ensure that you receive the safety independence for this thank you very much. And you have a lovely day and enjoy it. So good day. Let's see. You're in top. You're experiencing the rejected. Then what they away left. We take us, we smile. I got to smile. You have such pride. She is a slide.
But guys, just quickly before you go, if we can stay together, what I guarantee with Dr. Gabriel will be amongst us, or you look like them. It's going to listen that. If you're going to community, I still say the word spouses the morning. If we can come together and some of themselves, I have some business ideas we can. And they some like to be, but it's up to us.
Yes, Lord.
Because half of talk is half of talk. It's not one thing. When we know there's much like so if our CS and we say we want something yours. And we guys, please listen, don't move out. If you want to suggest a business that we can grow, for South Africa and so forth. Of course, money, there's always lots of money. Investors always want to know, I'm seriously have one. I want us to live with opportunity to form this thing in the other and change the other and that's what it is. There's many things and we expand them I cannot. But I will not dance those leaders don't. And I'm talking really but I'm not go there. But if you feel like a dog learner, will have to take care of them. And if anyone wants to come and just know we are the first thing. Out of all these things, let's do something very excellent. If we fail, then I don't think can we have the organizational capability? Can we be cohesive? Can we focus? Are we stable? All that is intelligence about what we want to do.